Hey guys, so this is Emily from Peach Street Crafts, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this really easy and really cute Valentine's Day wand shaker. So this is what a finished one looks like. Sorry, I'm having trouble holding it on camera, but here's an up-close version of it. And this, on this specific wand, I used the, what is this called? Lucky Us collection from a few years back. So I also have this really cute rosette that someone had gifted me that I just decided to stick on the front. Same with the bow at the bottom. So I'm just going to show you really quickly a tutorial on how I make the base, because obviously I didn't make the other stuff, but I figure I can show you how to make part of it, and then you can decorate it to your heart's desire. Pun intended, because it's Valentine's Day. And you could kind of dress it up however you want. So we're going to start by just grabbing a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. The one I'm using today, I really like these bows, and I like using them on the base. So I found one that's going to match this bow here. This is from the Hard Eyes collection. It's not a perfect match, but I figured it was pretty cute, even if it's not 100%. And maybe once I decorate, I might decide to go with a different one. But either way, I feel like this matches all the different colors that I have there. So I'm just going to trim off the little tail end. I don't know why, but that just bothers me whenever it's there, even though I'm sure it won't show up on the piece of paper that I use. But anyways, that's gone. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut 6 inches. Long ways. It doesn't really matter which way. So right here is 6, so I'm going to cut that down. And then I'm going to cut that in half. So this will now be at 3. So basically you need 2 3 by 12 strips of paper, and this is what I use to make the rosette. And it's not perfect, but you know what? We do what we can. If you have a Cricut, obviously this would be a little bit easier for you, because you can just use the Cricut cuts and the silhouette designs to help you make this. So now that I have it cut, you know this measures to 12 inches because that's what we decided to cut it to. This is the first piece. So I'm actually going to score every 1 inch. So I'm not going to use my score board. I'm just going to use my cutting board for this. And I have a little score buddy here. So I'm going to move it down to 11, score there. I'm going to move it down to 10, score there. Oops, that was a rough score. And now that I'm looking at it, actually it's every ½ inch. So instead of starting at 11, you'll start at 11 and a half. Sorry, it's been a minute since I made the other one. And then I'm gonna go to 11 and then 10 and a half, which is right about here. And it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So like if I did it at 1 inch, it really wouldn't change it too much. It's just gonna make my rosette look a little bit fluffier and bigger. Hopefully I didn't just get my head in the camera. So 10 and a half, this is 9. The closer that your scores are together, the tighter that it's going to be whenever you bunch it up. So it doesn't necessarily mean the smaller it'll be because it's the same width. It's just going to, the folds are going to appear closer together. So I'm just sticking to a ½ inch, which normally most rosettes are a 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and then this is 6. Go down 1, 5, 4 and a half, and 4. Obviously, I'm not the best at math because every time I'm talking and saying numbers out loud, they're definitely not correct, but oh well. You guys can kind of see the process here, and I'm sure that most of you probably already know how to do this. But yeah, just going down and scoring every ½ inch. Again, if you have a Cricut, this will make it a lot easier. A scoreboard would probably be faster to do as well because it's less to keep up with, but you know what? I already have this out, so this is what we're working with. So since this is white paper, you might not be able to see all the folds. That might be a little bit better. But now what you do is you just fold. I'm going to fold back, then forward. Back, then forward. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way through. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing to my other slip of paper. So I'm just going to fast forward through that really quick while I get both pieces ready to go. and then I'll show you how we put them together. Okay, so after all of your scoring and folding, you're gonna have two pieces that look like this. So again, these are 3 by 12 pieces scored at every 1/2 inch. And now we're gonna glue these together in order to make them one long piece, basically. And whenever you glue them, it's gonna be able to allow you to turn it. This is I'm not able to show you how I want to, that's frustrating. But basically, you can kind of see wherever I glued it here. So we'll glue that there and then that there. And then we're gonna push them together to make the actual rosette shape. So this is where it gets a little bit finicky. So just have patience and maybe, you know, have some extra paper ready to go, especially if you've never made a rosette before, then, you know, you might wanna have a backup just in case that you could use after. So I'm using just a regular hot glue gun. You can use whatever glue that you have. If you want it to hold up a little longer, then hot glue is probably your best bet. And I'm not gonna glue these on top of each other like this. I'm just going to glue them like this. And the reason why is because whenever I've made rosettes in the past, if I glue them like this on top of each other, it's going to make it really thick right here because now you have doubled paper. And it's just a little bit harder to manage and get to fold exactly how you want to. If you normally make your rosettes like this, and that might be more comfortable for you, but I prefer them to have like this because I think it's less noticeable as well. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So I'm just gonna layer this one side with hot glue, which I have to refill because my hot glue has been burning through several sheets of plastic for the past 30 minutes. So, you know, glad there's no fires going on. Ooh. And I almost just really messed that up. So yeah, once your glue is hot too, you'll have like a little bit of leeway to kind of work with it. So if it's not 100% lined up when you first do it, you can kind of maneuver it. So I'm just squishing these down together. Again, making sure that it's sealed. And now that's what it looks like. So we still have those folds here, but yeah, see, you can probably tell what I mean. Other than the fact that the hearts are not lined up, it's a little bit less noticeable to me to glue it like this rather than doubling it up. So this is what it looks like from the other side. So it will be doubled up here. And what I do is I just kind of trim the excess paper to make sure that it's not wonky at all, that if you're laying it flat, it doesn't look strange. Okay, so now everything is aligned on that front, and we're gonna do the same thing here. So I'm gonna fold it and I'm gonna glue it here. It won't fold perfectly yet, but yeah, essentially we're putting in a circle. And then when I glue these together, I'm gonna glue it from this way, so it might look a little weird on camera, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking this, I'm folding it in, taking this, folding it in, and then gluing these pieces together here. Okay, so that's what I'll do now. I'm gonna wait for it to get a little bit sticky. Oops, there we go. Okay, and you can squeeze from the underneath too if you don't want the glue to show. Sometimes it'll squeeze through just a little bit like it did for me here. So you could squeeze on the underside and just kind of bind it together like this. And now we have our full circle. So you can see it's pretty big, which is what we want because we're making a rosette that's a lot bigger, right? Because this is kind of like a wand. So that's why we have the two 12-inch pieces. So now the next step is, I'm probably going to set this aside for a second, but in just a moment, I'm going to push this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab those really thick pieces that we made. So this is where we glued it together, and so is this. I'm going to grab both of those ends because that's a completely half and half, and then you push down like this, like so. Okay, so this one is pretty big, but it's good for a magic wand. I guess this one was just a little bit shorter. So you could cut it down if you want to. Obviously, you would have to do that before you put it into the shape. But yeah, this is just kind of an example, and it's honestly easier for me to show you guys on camera if I make it a little bit bigger. So if you're making this at home, then I would maybe suggest to do 2-inch strips instead of 3 inches if you don't want it as big as this, because it's about the size of my hand. But you can also use them as decorations, you know, whatever you want to do. So in just a minute, we're gonna get to the part where we actually glue the rosette together to itself, but we need the piece that goes in the middle. So for the shaker, I have a circle die that I use, and I'll actually show you guys what it looks like because it's kind of cool. So it's this, and I have no idea where I got this from. Somebody gave this to me a long time ago. So it has this little razor blade on it, and then this is it's by EK Tools, and it's a circle. So my razor blade sticks to the side of it, and then you can roll it, and it's going to, whatever paper it's on top of, it's going to cut that into a circle. So you can put this on the outside and then flip it that the razor's on the inside so that you get the dual shapes like I did here. Okay, so I did the outside, then I did the inside on the same piece of circle, then I did the backing, and then I used foam tape in the middle. So I won't show you what that looks like because I'm sure you guys have already seen that before. It can kind of get the general premise. You could also use a die or your Cricut to do this. So real quick, I'm gonna do that off camera. I think I'm gonna do a heart shape for this one, and then I'll come back once I have that piece to glue it on. All right, so at this point, I have this little house of folds, and then this is the shaker that I made. So like I said, it's different than my other one, which was a circle, and I used acetate on this one. This one, I just used my heart die, and I have different sizes for heart, so I did the big heart, and then I did the little one next to it. I taped them with my washi tape and ran it through my die. It produced this smaller heart as well, so I'm just going to keep this one to the side. We'll use that in a minute. And then I used the bigger heart shape to cut out the backing and the vellum piece that went in the middle. There are sequins in here. They're a little bit hard to see because of the lighting. Also, my vellum is just kind of dark. It's not as light as most vellum, so but it's fun for Valentine's Day, and I don't always use printed vellum very often, so I wanted to try to use it for this. So this is what I have, and now we're going to put together our wand, our big rosette buddy. So whenever you push it, and it might take a couple of tries, like it might not push perfectly the first time that you do it, but once you push it down, you should get your rosette shape, which is something like this. Okay, so I like to start with the back because you can make mistakes on the back and it doesn't really matter, and so it gives you good practice, and then whenever you do the front, it makes it just a little bit easier. So whenever I flip it, looks like this, and that's where I'm going to use this little heart, so I'll probably just use the opposite side, that way it looks cute. So that's what I'm going to glue here. So I'm going to start, and I have my glue on high here, and I did put another glue stick in. So I'm just going to kind of load the middle of this with glue, and you don't want to do too much because it's going to be really hot and it's going to make your rosette really heavy. So I'm just going to put in enough to where when I push it together, you can kind of see the glue forming a little volcano. While you do this, try to make sure that your rosette is fanned out enough. Sometimes without realizing it, you're pushing together some of the pieces and scrunching it up so it looks really tightly folded on one side and really loose on the other. So just try to be cognizant of that as you're holding. And then I just saw the glue go down a little bit, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more, and I'm gonna focus it on that top part now. I don't put my heart on immediately or my backing piece on immediately. First of all, that's going to burn your hand because your glue is really hot, and second of all, if you wait a second for your glue to kind of dry a little bit, it's going to be just a little bit stickier and easier to put your piece on. So that is on now, and I'm just going to press it, and patience is key here. You don't want to let it go too early to where it all folds out and then you just have a hot glue sticky mess everywhere. So I'm just going to be patient. I'm going to hold it here for maybe another 15 seconds or so until I feel that the glue has completely cooled down. If it's still warm, you definitely don't want to pull it off yet. It's still drying and hardening. You can see my heart isn't really on 100% centered. This is the back, so I'm not really worried about that. But if it does bother you, once the glue completely dries, you can probably pull the heart off without any issues and put on something different and make sure that it's centered. It's not going to cause the glue to fall out because by that point it should be sticking in the center. Okay, so I feel pretty confident that this is dry. Whenever I let go, it's not moving. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. It's okay if it sticks a little bit to the front of your desk or whatever your workspace is. Glue is very malleable, so you can see that it's kind of been pushed down and there's a little bit left over on my table. So I'm just going to pull that up while it's still not all the way hardened. clean up the residue later. And this is what I'm left with. This is my rosette. If you feel like kind of judging it up a little bit, you can. It's not going to make a whole lot of a difference, but you want to do that before you put on your top piece for sure. Just noticing it's a little bit tighter on this side so I can kind of hold it, fan it out just a bit. Okay, so I'm going to put my shaker heart, and this will kind of be the center of it. I might even put it a little bit off to the side since my rosette is so big, and maybe that way I can kind of layer some cut aparts and stuff behind it. So let me see what I have here. So I have my shaker, my cut apart, and yeah, I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and start gluing down. I have this piece from the chipboard collection that I think is kind of cute, and it matches a lot of our colors that we have here. I also have this little lollipop that someone sent me a long time ago. I'm not sure where they got this, but it's just the cutest thing. It has little beads inside of it. So I figured that that's like also some really pretty pastel colors, so maybe we could try to factor that in somehow. I kind of like the way that it looks on the cut apart with it hanging off. And I have the foam stickers as well, so I'm thinking if we wanted to add something that like has a phrase. I really like the love you to the moon and back because it has kind of both of the colors, and it's small enough where it won't take away too much from what we have already. So I think I'm gonna grab that one out. Yeah, I'm kind of liking how this looks so far. So let me go ahead and add some thread behind here. Okay, I was thinking maybe pink thread, but that might be too similar to the color. I have this darker pink that we could use. I kind of like that one because it matches the pink hearts in the background, so we'll go with that. I also have blue, but there's a lot of blue going on, so we'll stick with this. I'm going to just cut this off. And I'm really loose whenever I do this. The main thing that I try to make sure is that sorry, I'm like purposely being messy with it, that the end pieces, so like this little piece of string, I'm trying to make sure that that doesn't hang off because that could catch and kind of unravel. So I'm just going to make sure that that gets put on there, and that the other end piece does, which is right here. So try to keep up with those if you can, but the rest is just have fun, be messy. I kind of like when they stick out wonky. Okay, I think I like this. And let's see if I have any more fun little pieces from the collection. These are so cute. I don't know if you guys can see all these down here. I'm just looking for something kind of small that I can pop in that corner. Oh yeah, that's cute. I think I like that. All right, I'm gonna try to, I'm like losing all the little pieces. I'm just gonna put that to the side and worry about it later. And something to go with this, I have these little hearts here. Kind of ties in with the lollipop, or I could add some white back in and maybe do this white heart. I don't really like that next to the cream. I also have this one. This is the same little bag that that lollipop heart came in. Somebody sent this to me, so I'm just pulling some of the pieces out to see how they look. I think I like that. I think that's the winner. Although this one is really cute. What do we think of that? Is that too silly? I kind of like that. All right, I'm gonna leave it. Maybe I'll change my mind. I do need to start gluing some stuff down, so I'll start with this. It's kind of in the background. This can be glued. Hopefully this, well, yeah, that definitely shows through, but you know, what can you do? Okay, when I glue this down, I'm just gonna add a little bit of mounting tape on the back. It's a little bit uneven. This little heart can go on. I think I like it. Just gotta make sure I place it correctly. It's a love bug. I'm gonna put this up on mounting tape. This can go underneath it. Okay. I think I'm pretty happy with that. It's got a lot going on. I don't want to do too much. But let's see if I have any enamel dots that could work for this. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and start the next part, which, oops. So now that I'm done decorating, I'm gonna add the handle for the wand. So I'm just gonna grab that real quick. For the handle of my wand, I'm just using a paper straw. I got a pack of these a while back from Tuesday Morning, and they had like a big pack with different colors. So I'm just using the pink one since it's Valentine's. But if you don't have any paper straws, you can, well, I would check your party section. So at Walmart or Target or wherever you go, if you have a party store, Party City, a lot of the times they do have paper straws, and they'll have them in whatever colors you want. So you could check there first, but if you can't find them, I think that a wooden dowel will be fine. You might just have to add a little bit of extra glue. But yeah, you could just kind of makeshift something to be your handle, or I mean, you could just send it like this too. So I'm gonna kind of squish my straw at the top to make it flat. And you don't need to go too far down with it. Just about right there. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay. And then I'm going to put it in between here. So I am just gonna pull this apart a little bit. I'm not too worried about it getting messed up because, again, we've already glued this in place. So the bigger that your rosette is, the more structure you're gonna need. So I would put the straw higher up if your rosette is pretty big, because you want it to make sure that it's holding on. So for mine is obviously a lot bigger. Like I said, if you're doing one this size, I think that these were 2x12 pieces. So this is a much more normal size. I think if you're gonna send some mail, that this is probably what you wanna do. But if you made yours big like mine, because I already told you the measurements, then just make sure you put your straw a little further up, so that way you have a little bit more sturdiness. And again, I'm just gonna pull this apart. I'm not really worried about it breaking, and plus we're just gonna glue it back together again anyways, because it's already been glued. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue that. So I'm gonna put hot glue on both sides of my paper straw. If my glue will work. There we go. Glue, and don't be afraid to load it up. I'm gonna give it a second to dry. Not dry, but just get a little bit more tacky. And put it in my rosette and close. And if your hot glue makes a mess here, it's okay, because remember, we're gonna cover it up with a bow, and we're gonna add some ribbon and stuff. So the main important part is that you make sure that your straw is really sturdy in there, because if that's gonna be your handle, you wanna make sure that it stays where it's supposed to. I'm also just gonna put some on the outside, kind of close that up a little. That wasn't very much, but that will do. Okay. Also, you can now see that my heart is backwards, which is fine, doesn't bother me. So now we have the base, and again, this is pretty sturdy. I can kind of twirl it. It's not going anywhere. But again, make sure that you add more glue. If you feel like if you're holding it and it's not sturdy, it's really heavy, then you might want to add more glue. Okay, so now comes the fun part, which is adding your glue and your ribbons. So I'm just taking out my bows to see what I think is going to look best, but we're going to tie on our ribbon before we do our bow. So I'm going to pick out my ribbon. I'm going to try to find some stuff that matches really well. I have this one, which is fun. I have some pink pom-pom, which we can use that. And I have some red hearts. I don't really have anything that is gold or, well, I do have a little bit of this left, but I don't think that this is going to be enough. Let me see here. Yeah, I might need a little bit more of that, which I do have some. Okay. I think I'm going to go with lace for this one instead of the gold trim. I like the way that that looks. So once you pick out your ribbon, just try to measure them and kind of make them all around the same size. You'll probably need to trim them up a little bit after you're done arranging them anyways. And the good part about this is that you do not have to be good at tying pretty bows and knots, because it's just going to get covered up whenever we put the bow on. This heart trim is from Target from a couple of years ago. The rest of these are from Hobby Lobby. So I'm making sure that they're all at least around the same in the middle, and there's not one that's like all the way at the end. So I have more lace than any of the other ones, which is fine. So when I tie this, I'm just gonna tie it. Like, I'm not gonna try to make it super perfect because we're gonna kind of squish it down and put that bow on top. So try to limit how many ribbons that you use on this, because if you have too bulky of a knot, if you're using stuff that's really thick, it's gonna make it a little bit harder to secure it. Okay, so I have my ribbon on now, and this is literally what I did on the other one. It is not perfect at all, but we're gonna put the bow on top and nobody will ever know. What you can do to kind of make the knot a little smaller is go through and pull each one of these while you're holding the knot. So I'm going to trim these now. And you don't want them to be too long, especially if you're going to sit them in the mail, because they might get tangled up with whatever else you're sitting in the box. So just kind of short and sweet. If you're worried about your knot coming undone, you can always add just a little bead of hot glue underneath, so that way it kind of holds it in place. But I'm not really worried about that too much because I think it'll be mostly laying flat. All right, so I'm gonna put my bow on now. Hot glue on the knot if you want. And I'll put a little bit on this bow and flatten. Alrighty guys, and that is our Magic Valentine's Day wand completed. So hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. Like I said, my wand is a little big, but that's okay. I had fun decorating it anyways, and it will still fit in most mail if I put it at the bottom. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and if you recreate it, make sure you tag me on Instagram or leave me a comment below so that I can go check it out. It's a really easy, fun thing to add to your Valentine's Day mail this season. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!